Hello there, Sagittarius, and welcome to my channel. My name is Isaac, and we're going to get into your reading for September 2024. So I spent a little time with this chart already, and let's just go ahead and get into what we have in store for you for the month of September. So Sagittarius, it seems like things are pretty stable for you, I would imagine, right now, based on what I'm looking at here. Maybe even too stable to the point of being a little boring and stifling, maybe. Um, Sagittarius, I get the sense that you might be a little bit, let's say, closeted when it comes to your interest in things like esoteric things, things like astrology, magic, spirituality, all that kind of stuff. It's like you're interested in it. You understand it really well. There's a depth to you that most people don't usually see because you don't really show that side of yourself to them. And you might be feeling like you're wanting to do that more lately, but it could be rooted in something that ultimately might not actually be the best for you, because you may find that when you start to really share this more spiritually oriented side of yourself, we got Neptune down here in your fourth house right now in Pisces, in opposition to Venus, which is conjunct Lilith right up here, these guys here. So Lilith really represents like the temptation, the dark temptation, the thing that you kind of maybe even crave, but if you go for it, it ends up creating more problems for you. That's really what Lilith is. It's like the carrot that gets dangled in your face, either in a material way or just in your mind or emotionally. And if you go after it, you actually end up feeding into a more toxic side of your subconscious. And right now, it seems that the universe is sort of tempting you into wanting to shake things up a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe you don't consciously think of it like, "Oh, I just want to stir things up because I'm bored." But there could be an unconscious drive to where this desire to share this more esoteric kind of hidden side of yourself to everybody else, it's probably going to cause some issues because everybody's come to expect a certain level of pragmatism from you. With Virgo up here in your 10th house, it's very likely that people look to you. They see you and they think of somebody who's very intelligent, very analytical, somebody who is down to earth, and they might not know about your more philosophical and esoteric side. And if you start just out of nowhere, kind of being really open about all this stuff out of nowhere, it might kind of blindside a lot of people, and they might, maybe you have people in your life who aren't really into that sort of stuff at all. And if you get to be too vocal about it, it might make them change their perception of you, which in general, it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks, right? But I think that for you, you might have this belief or a sense that if that you really wish you could connect with people more on these deeper topics, but you might find out that when you do start doing that, that the people who are able to connect with you on that level are not actually the people that you necessarily want to spend the most time with. Maybe you actually really like having more surface level, kind of just fun, playful sort of connections, and with people who are, quote unquote normal, more kind of normie type people who have kind of normal lives and just aren't interested in all this kind of spiritual stuff. Maybe you actually like spending time with those types of people more, and you don't necessarily get along as well with the same kinds of people that you can connect on this really deep sort of metaphysical spiritual level. So it might not actually necessarily be a good idea to follow with that impulse right now. I mean, obviously you can do whatever you want, but you just may find later on that it might that the things are the way they are for maybe a good reason. Maybe it's actually the way you like it, but because things have been sort of predictable and stable for you for a long time, you kind of start to take those things for granted, and there's this underlying sense of dissatisfaction that you're trying to find some way to remedy that. And this month, it could be that you get the idea that this is the way to do that, to go out and really just present that side of yourself and start really just being totally open about your opinions of these sort of more things that not everybody really understands. This kind of higher thinking. Um, on some subconscious level, you might believe that doing so, it's almost like you kind of think that maybe if you can get people to see that side of you, the deeper side of you, and you can almost kind of it'll get more credit for that depth of character, and that maybe that will make you feel more satisfied, but it won't. It really won't. Because that sort of satisfaction that you're looking for doesn't really come from people or jobs or really anything external to you whatsoever. What you're really looking for is inner peace. You have Pisces in the fourth house, which means that there's sort of a natural pull towards this kind of floaty, relaxed, non-analytical way of being, where and it's really when you learn to turn off the talking, chattering, analyzing mind. It's when you're able to turn that off for a while that you start to feel that peace that you're looking for, that inner peace. And so it doesn't really have anything to do with the things that you do or the position in life or the friends you have or what anyone else thinks of you. It's really just a matter of learning to use your mind to be able to turn that analytical side off when you need to. Um, and that sort of edge that comes along with this sort of predictable, maybe overly stable life can go away. So there's no need to blow up any relationships or any position in your life by suddenly just presenting yourself as a completely different person than the people around you might be used to. And of course, if you just absolutely feel like you just need to do that, then by all means do so. Um, but just recognize that it might not actually be the solution that you're looking for. This might be Lilith tempting you to do something that you think will be good for you and make you happier, but will actually just make things worse. Um, and I guess I kind of skipped over a lot of, obviously I haven't been pointing out all the details of where I'm getting this information from looking at this chart, because it can take a little bit of time to point it all out. But part of it comes from Uranus. Uh, yes, I'm still too immature to say Uranus without giggling a little bit. But Uranus is in retrograde in your sixth house in Taurus. Now, having Taurus in your sixth house kind of lends to this desire for stability and security. And with Uranus in there, that kind of comes and stirs things up and keeps things kind of changing and moving forward. Although when Uranus is in Taurus, that tends to be slowed down a lot, because Taurus really slows down that innovative, kind of crazy, wild, erratic energy that Uranus brings. But when it starts to go into retrograde, as it will be doing by the time this video, well, for the time that this video is for, I'm actually recording a little early, but it's not actually retrograde yet, but will be soon, I believe. But since Uranus is in retrograde, that sort of wild unpredictability that it brings starts to level out and kind of become, things can start to feel kind of boring and stagnant and feel like they're not really going anywhere. So that's one of the things that kind of lends to this urge to I mean, it might be kind of an underlying urge that's not really a clear thing. It could just be just an underlying feeling, just an edginess that just kind of feels like, man, this everything's pretty good. I've got the money, I've got the stability. Maybe you've got a decent relationship or a family or whatever you have going on. It's like things that are like, things aren't really bad as far as I can tell. And obviously this is a general reading. This isn't going to apply to absolutely every Sagittarius out there, but in general, it kind of seems like things are okay, except for this underlying feeling. And it can be really easy to project that feeling onto certain things in your life, thinking that that's the culprit. That's the thing I need to change in order to finally feel at peace with myself and feel in the present, just float in the present moment. But every time you do that, when you project that feeling outward onto something else and then you try to change that thing, it usually only ends up it either creates more problems or it just turns out to not be what you wanted at all in the first place. So it's much better to just accept that you feel the way you feel and that it doesn't actually have anything to do with what's going on around you. It is a feeling that is rooted in your body, in your emotions. It may be even on a deeper level, there could be some kind of old trauma that you haven't faced that's kind of really buried in the subconscious, and it only shows itself to you as a generalized kind of underlying feeling. But I feel like with what I'm looking at here, trying to approach it in that way and trying to figure out, oh, what is this trauma? What is this? Why exactly do I feel this way? It might be kind of difficult with Neptune there near your fourth house, near your IC. IC is this thing right here. It's basically just like the bottom, the root, you could say, like the root of your chart, the emotional root. Um, this Neptune in retrograde here down there with Saturn in retrograde down there as well, it can be hard to see and draw clear boundaries. Saturn being in retrograde, meaning boundaries dissolving and being kind of difficult to, Saturn in Pisces. How do I explain this? So Pisces is kind of like a boundless ocean. There's no walls. It's like if you imagine that you're floating in the ocean and you look to all sides and there's nothing but water all around you, nothing to move towards, nothing to go towards, nothing to get your bearings. It's just endless, boundless ocean. That's kind of what Pisces is. And Saturn likes to draw circles around things and give boundaries and get in and categorize things to a certain extent. Although Mercury is also involved in that. But anyways, when Saturn's in retrograde, boundaries tend to dissolve so that they can be reformed. So right now, with these two planets in retrograde and near your fourth house, it might be hard for you to really see clearly the exact reason why you might be feeling this kind of underlying boredom and dissatisfaction, even though it might seem like it's just because not enough is happening. There's just not enough stimulation going on around you. And that could be part of the case, but I don't really think so. I think that that's the belief that needing things to be more crazy or more shaken up and unpredictable and stimulating in order for you to feel the way you want to feel, that's kind of a trick. It's not really quite true. And that could actually be Chiron here playing its little tricks. Chiron being the wounded healer. It kind of represents in the chart the deepest wound. And it tends to drive people to do things out of a sense of seeking self-validation, seeking self-worth through other things. And being in your fifth house in Aries right now, it's like there's a part of you that's seeking excitement and fun, which is it's always good to have fun, and do things that are exciting. I'm not saying don't go out and do things that you enjoy. I'm just saying that it's not going to fix, it's not going to solve the problem. It's not going to fix anything. It can be fun and you can have nice distractions and go and have a good time. But what we're really talking about here is trying to find like a permanent fix to a problem that doesn't seem to go away no matter how much you change things or do things differently. This is a spiritual side of this, is a spiritual issue. Um, and this same sort of issue could show up in your relationships as well. Uh, maybe things, with Jupiter in the seventh house and Mars being kind of near that 28th, 29th degree there in Gemini. Um, I would get the sense that maybe your relationships might be going well as well. It's almost like things are going so well that you don't, but things are going really well. They're very stable. You're doing good, but there's still a feeling of not really being that satisfied, and just like there's your mind is searching for something to try to remedy this underlying feeling. And this can show up in relationships as well. So maybe for some people, it could be you start projecting that feeling onto your partner, onto the relationship, and thinking, oh, well, maybe I need to find someone else, or I need to, spend time with other people because things are just so boring and stable and predictable in this relationship. That's not going to do it either. It's not. Don't blow things up just because that are going well, because you're not used to, or because there's this sort of thing that won't go away, this problem that won't go, this underlying emotional problem that won't go away, which I feel like it mostly just manifests as boredom. It's not like crazy erratic emotions or anything. It's more so just this almost like drudgery, this feeling of like, when you've been working the same job for a long time and you don't really have a whole lot going on. There's not a lot of drama or stress going on. You get along well with your partner, things are going good with the family or whatever. But then you still just kind of have this I don't want to do any of this. This sounds boring. I just want something interesting to come into my life. Um, Anyways, I think you get the point of what I'm trying to get across here. And that is really kind of the gist of what September, or at least the first part of September, is about. So you don't necessarily need everyone to see this Pallas here, which is an asteroid that represents like your abstract intelligence being in your 12th house in Scorpio. It's like that's kind of a hidden thing, and it's almost better that way. You don't have to hide yourself, of course, but it just seems like for you, or according to this chart, uh, eh, letting other people know that you have this sort of hidden depth isn't necessarily going to make things better. It might scare certain people away. It might attract other people who you don't necessarily really even want to spend time or interact with at all. Um, anyways, overall, I think things are good. And the main thing is to not allow that sort of general underlying dissatisfaction to cause you to stir things up where there, cause problems where there might not need to be, for the sake of trying to find that satisfaction. So, anyways, I'm going to keep these videos short to start off. I'm just starting out on YouTube again. Um, Thank you for watching. Feel free to email me if you want to set up a natal chart reading. I do tarot readings as well. Remember to subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Take care.